Hey, welcome back. It's been a while since we did another Ensō, and in this series we're doing Ensō Tell Me More. And here I had the greatest pleasure of meeting Yuliya at a recent Henry Bernick Center class for entrepreneurs, and her work with psychology and cognitive behavior therapy. And Yuliya, I've enjoyed all our conversations. Welcome. Tell me about you and what you do.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I am a cognitive behavioral therapist. I'm a founder of Bear Anxiety Clinic here in Simcoe County. I'm moving a little bit. I'm adding to my practice a little bit more of psychoeducation and consulting and program design, focusing more on not only on clinical reactive approach to mental health and personal, organizational, community wellness, but more towards a proactive approach, because I've been noticing for the past few years after COVID that so many, mental health issues, interpersonal issues, behavioral issues could have been prevented if we had certain skills which are very, very basic. But unfortunately, they're not being taught at schools. So I'm half of my practice. I'm focusing more now on aside of clinical on psychoeducation. I work with organizations, nonprofit organizations, caregiving professions, leadership teams on how to navigate their own approach, to themselves, their professions, how they, what kind of service they provide, what kind of self-awareness level and level of emotional intelligence they have, as well as business professionals, entrepreneurs, focusing more on emotional intelligence versus just, I would say, soft skills. That's probably more familiar term, soft skills more rather than only hard skills.
Yeah, no, I love that. And we've had so many deep conversations over the last couple of days. Our paths keep crossing, and whether it's in the food line to get lunch at an event, and our conversations just keep getting deeper and really getting to the root of what we're seeing in our environments, whether in leadership or just how we show up. And there was a lot of synergies that we found. Even on your logo, you have the Ensō circle, which was a very fun synergy. But I think that it really brings us together, and the work that we run is parallel to, at the heart of it, wanting to see an intentional change on how we show up and how we operate. And yours is more on understanding the depths of the brain and psychology. And I love what you said on really brings to that, rather than reaction, how do we then show up with intention? And what are you seeing that really is the shift in perspective that you see with your work to shift from reaction in how we show up to intention?
That's the self-awareness. That's number one step. And that's why I'm building my programs, and whether it's for youth, like Girls Confidence Club that I run for the girls, or whether it's like actually high level leadership teams, it's the emphasis on emotional intelligence. And many people confuse emotional intelligence with just the ability and skills to regulate emotions, but it's actually not just that. So the biggest part of emotional intelligence is actually self-awareness. It's knowing where you're at, knowing not just, mindful kind of understanding where I am right now, or in a physical place, right? Or in your business career, or your personal growth. It's not only about that. It's about your patterns of thinking, your patterns of perception of yourself and the world around you, your core beliefs, your emotional and behavioral reactions on triggers, knowing your triggers actually, as well, understanding who you are, your core beliefs, your cognitive and behavioral patterns, and what kind of emotions trigger you to act certain way, and the level of your the depth of your state. Are you in the reactive state more versus responsive state? And now, for the past few years, starting with COVID, where it's like we almost like diving into the state of reactivity. We constantly exposed and almost like boiling in that pot of like constant chronic stress, whether a stress triggered by external events like political, economical, and societal change and shift in agendas, or whether it's our own internal state of what kind of thinking patterns, what kind of thoughts I'm floating my brain with. Right, so that's very important. So self-awareness, I believe, is number one state that it's a huge lack of understanding how important it is. So we jump into solving problems. Number one, when it comes to mental health, because I'm probably going to be dividing a little bit today, talking both about clinical and non-clinical issues. So in mental health, the problem that I see, we jump in right away into fixing things. Right, so reactive approach to it. So this child has a behavioral problem. We need to diagnose them. We need to medicate them. We need to bring them to therapy. Therapy is expensive and not as accessible as medications. We're going to medicate that child. For example, I'm just giving you a quick example. When it comes to leadership, so we're so quick to recognize that, okay, I'm not making any profit, or my business is not growing. I'm stuck. I feel stuck. I don't know what to do. Okay, it's my team. So what I do, I utilize my utilitarian, again, an example, approach to actually, navigating the change in an organizational systemic change, versus me stepping back, just sitting down and listening to your team's concerns, so reassessing your own understanding. Where are you at? What is your perception of what's going on? Do you actually have objective perception on your team performance, or it's your subjective perception? Because we're so quick to jump habitually. We're all creatures of habit, and habits not only behavioral, habits cognitive and reactive habits. Right. If I was taught at school in my, let's say, MBA, getting my MBA in business, not me, just an example, as executive leader, I was taught this and this strategies, or performance has to be this and that, right? Or my team's behavior should be aligned with this and this and that, or whether it's interpersonal hierarchy that needs to be followed, right? We are so stuck in our own beliefs. We're lacking flexibility. We're lacking self-awareness. We're lacking understanding on how important it is sometimes to just sit down, reassess what's going on inside of you, and listen. We're not listening. We're not listening ourselves. We're not listening to other people when it comes to performance, and what are the obstacles for this performance outcome, right? But we're just fixing things, fixing, versus something that actually could have been prevented if we only had a little bit of knowledge, skill building around our personal and interpersonal life.
Yeah. And what do you believe, like, could it be that what I hear is a lot of external fixing and solutions, and seeking for a diagnosis, an understanding, a root cause, that are all external? What is it that the shift, could it be internal, that's required, a shift to go internal versus seeking the answers external?
That's the main purpose, and the main goal is the most effective first step into making a change in your life, whether it's a small problem in your interpersonal relationship, or it's some acute mental health condition like anxiety or depression, or even chronic condition, right? It's needed. You look inside. We're so quick to blame other people or circumstances. We're so quick to find look for external solutions. I'm going to hire I don't know. I'm going to hire somebody to help me navigate the problem in my team. My team is not performing. right? Same with the, let's say, I'm going to hire a professional. If we're talking about clinical environment, I'm going to hire a professional to navigate my child's or my partner's or my behavior. And when they come to me and I tell them, like, my approach is very practical. I don't like a lot of, like, I'm not a fluff person, even in therapy. You need solution. You came to me for solution. We're not going to waste time of just blah, 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 talking about your emotions, right? It's good to talk about emotions, but I know that emotions are just data. These are just indicators that something needs to be changed. Right? These are not just, I feel anxious, I need to get rid of anxiety. I feel depressed, I need to get rid of depression. We need to learn how to listen to our emotions and look inside, like what are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Right? But that's a whole other conversation. So going back to your question, looking inside and finding what's going on. I need to see it and understand. Is my team not performing well? Maybe it's not because that coach that you hired for tens of $1,000s a day was not, how do I say it? It was not good enough. I would say in simple language, right? Not good enough to assess environment, to assess the team functioning properly with proper understanding of human behavior and behavioral science, right? It's just one of those coaches probably who can present themselves really well, right? And they charge a lot, so people think they're actually knowledgeable people. So the team couple weeks would be performing accordingly, but it all goes back to the same thing. Without for a leader understanding, so maybe if I'm a leader, what am I doing wrong here?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm doing something wrong at this particular environment with already established built team, or maybe I'm doing something wrong at the hiring process. Maybe something deeper in the roots. The problem exists where maybe we need to reassess who we hire. Maybe we need to look not only at resumes and labels and university diplomas and all this kind of like fancy little things and experiences, right? How about we looking as well at if it's a good fit for my corporate culture or organizational culture, if this person is actually possess the soft skills and the level of emotional intelligence that could be beneficial for the team. Same with when we work in clinical environment, but tell parents, these are the tools and steps that you need to change environment at home, right? There's very specific strategies that will help you and your child, if it's for a child or you. This is certain things that you need to change in your life that will help you make that shift in your life. But you need to move. We need to move forward. You can't just sit still and expect things to change for you.
Yeah, and that points to a really key space where I've been really researching and understanding of even just how cultures navigate certain things. And what I've been observing our North American society, we're so quick to jump to the next, jump to next, jump to next. And it brought me back to observe my mother and the Japanese disciplines of tea ceremony and calligraphy and shodo. And the tea ceremony really teaches you to really sit in stillness and those meditative movements of recognizing and identifying if emotions do show up, of not about suppression, but working through them and taking them with you, of how to sit with them, and then realizing, hey, I got to bring my brain to a different state of mind to be able to sit with intention and presence, and instead of reacting. And I think back to when I was a kid, when my mom used to do these, and I'd be like, oh my goodness, so slow. Like, come on, why do we have to fold this 1,000 times, right? And just pour it in there. And it made me really reflect, like, that's what our world is now. Come on, let's go. We need more efficiency, productivity. I don't have time to sit still. My phone's going off, my email's going here. And it took that moment for me to just really pause and learn that in stillness and in that pausing and being comfortable in that pause and stillness. And so tell me more of being pausing in that stillness from a psychologist's point of view. Like what then is happening to our brains?
So amazing example, and I cannot do it. Like, I'm training, I'm forcing myself. That's my current state of, like, self-improvement and self-growth is like forcefully making myself stop, pause, don't do anything, don't think about anything. So what happens in the brain, I teach ceremonies and calligraphy ceremony practices, very meditative, very helpful, very, very helpful in the stressful life and our stressing cultures as well. So what happens in the brain? So when we're constantly exposed to certain amount of stress, unhealthy stress, because stress can be healthy as well, right? We even starting with the childhood, with the environment we're growing up, childhood events, especially adverse events, experiences, may shape our brain's perception of the environment as hostile. So the brain's growing up and developing in an environment that puts our bodies into fight or flight mode. Right, and it gets wired on constantly be in a state of guard, and I'm assessing, I'm monitoring. So if, let's say, I don't know, my dad is impulsive, reactive, yelling all the time. Less okay, but you ended up in a toxic relationship, right? So chronic exposure to stress, not necessarily relational, but also like environment, like societal, environmental, may keep your brain constantly being on guard into, I need to assess the environment around me and to look for threats, right? So this biological, neurological reaction of a brain in order to save you from potential threats, right? There are no tigers running around, behind us anymore to eat us alive, right? That we need to fight or flee, right? But those metaphorical tigers are all over the place right now in our environment and in our heads. We cannot stress enough how much power our thoughts have over us and over our stress response, because human brain doesn't see the difference between reality and your own thoughts. So our brain perceives our thoughts as reality, whether it's memories, whether it's external information that we're getting from the news, whether it's our dreams, whether it's some memory, like when there was a show you watched when you were 8 years old that you were not supposed to watch, it was too graphic, right? So all of these memories are being stored. So when your brain is constantly on guard, constantly sends that signal to your body that, guys, we need to mobilize all the resources. We need to send all the energy to our muscles of our arms and legs so we can fight the danger, even if it's just perceived danger, or even if it's just anticipation of an attack, right? Which most of us live all the time. Am I going to get sick after COVID? Am I going to get into a car accident after I've learned somebody died by the car accident, right? All these little things here and there, anticipation of attack, adds up to your fight or flight mode, to your physiological tension. And this way it overstimulates your sympathetic nervous system that's responsible for that kind of arousal, responsible for fight or flight mode. That's why so many kids now are misdiagnosed overdiagnosed with ADHD, with oppositional defiant disorder, especially ADHD. But it's not necessarily because they have developmental disorder, but it's because it's reaction to the environment, it's reaction to distress, it's reaction to constant stimuli for their amygdala to constantly flare up, right? So the moment my amygdala is overworking as it's growing up, because it's probably as they're growing up, is that with the early age of life, it's the one of the most active part of the brain, because the frontal cortex is still severely underdeveloped, right? So imagine, I'm talking about childhood a lot, because that's what our brains and our nervous system and our neurological system, all our systems are being formed and shaped, right? So that's what we've been programmed with. So if my nervous system that's responsible for fight or flight mode is constantly active, our parasympathetic nervous system is kind of like responsible for calming down. It's kind of like falling asleep, right? It's kind of getting atrophy a little bit. Same as like we're working out and working one muscle, one biceps, right? Working, lifting is going to work. Another is not, it's going to get atrophy. Same with brain and the nervous system.
I totally bring to my coach side, like as a swimmer and a swim coach. And I think of everything that you're saying there too, of thinking Mental Mastery is this book that I read way back then. And just quite simply that, like, we're practicing this neural pathway. From what I'm hearing from you, we're practicing this neural pathway of stress. Like, we're actually unconsciously practicing that neural pathway instead of the pathway over here, which is calm, meditative stay. Is that really how we're seeing is there's one neural pathway, it's going to go to the amygdala, and then one is the parasympathetic, which will bring that calmness and what where does the reticular activation system fit in there?
Can you elaborate on that question? Reticular anti-activation system. What do you mean in this context?
Yeah, from my understanding, I'm not a psychologist, so this is where I seek to
I'm not a
use
psychologist as well. I'm a psychotherapist, right?
right, but your studies are much deeper than mine on that of the reticular activations. And when we seek out something that we intentionally are looking to seek, so if I'm going to seek out presence and just a state of mind of peace, then we're then activating a different part of our brain. Is that correct?
Yes, but why I asked you to elaborate on this question, because sometimes, just to give me an example, because we've been exposed to certain motion of neurons, let's say, and I'm not a neuroscientist or I'm not a neuro person, I'm not a doctor, right? I just like I like the holistic neuropsychological approach to human behavior, right? So that's why the context was important for me. We're so habitually into this mode, right? So intentionally seeking for activating parasympathetic nervous system, so it's balance out that state, because we don't want to get rid of fight or flight completely. We need it. Anxiety is not as bad, right? It's just now so overused. This word is also overused, overdiagnosed. Social media is like anxiety, even songs now, anxiety. Oh, come on, guys, like it's okay, it's good, it's okay to have anxiety, it's normal, you're human beings, right? So so to balance it out, that's what we need to activate our parasympathetic nervous system, just to balance out. So we need to train relaxation techniques just to give our brain a little recharge, so it learns that we're not under attack all the time. Right, that's why this kind of practices, meditation, like meditative practices, like you mentioned as well, or relaxation, just do nothing for some time. Just I teach like busy professionals, like between tasks. So you will getting up off your desk, you go into the washroom, have 30 seconds, sit on your armchair or your couch in your office, and just or lay down flat. Give yourself 60 minutes, close your eyes, do nothing. Intentional. Yes, intentionally practicing a relaxation, recharge. I call it recharge your batteries, because the word relaxation, meditation, breathing, so overused, especially I've noticed in the, tough corporate, organizational, C-level business, those men like breathing exercise, Yulia, are you kidding me? I'm running like thousands of people business. I'm running like $200 million revenue, company, breathing exercise. Right? So, but if we paraphrase it, right? So it's a little bit easier when you tell, okay, you got to recharge your batteries. You got to update your software, right? So that's the language I use if it's like, let's say IT company, for example, they love, but they kind of like naturally perceive it in a better way than if I explain it to, let's say, teachers or coaches, life or mindset coaches that I train. Just a little bit different environment, a little bit different language, different lens. So, yeah, but it's very, very important, yes, to actually intentionally go and start looking for practices, because if you want to change your body image, yes, you want to, like, I don't know, you want a six-pack, you have to go to the gym. And it doesn't matter, you go to the gym for 5 days in a row, very first week of your actually active exercise lifestyle, you go to 5 days, 5 hours a day. By Friday, you're not going to have six-pack, right? It has to be consistent, baby steps, right? Baby steps. It has to be baby steps, but it has to be consistent application, and it has to become part of your life, like those tea ceremonies that you're talking about.
And your brain is a muscle, so you have to be very intentional on the new part of your brain that you're going to be practicing. Yeah, no, I always love your lens of talking, and that's why I think we constantly have these conversations that can get really deep, and that perspective that you bring in of the shift of perspective, upgrade your software. And it brought to mind, I think I saw a reel that was someone trying to teach truckers how to bring that calm, and the guys were my language, they're like, fuck this, right? Want to walk out. And the person facilitating then heard that and used that and was like, okay, we're gonna breathe through fuck this, like FUCKTHIS, right? And I think that's a great way for the listeners here of if what's a different shift of perspective that will allow you to go, okay, what works for you, and finding what works for you. Because I mean, there's a wealth of information out there to find how to activate what motivates you to be able to practice these skills and to explore that. Yeah.
That's another problem, that so many people who are in leadership positions, or who achieved a lot in this life, it requires certain personalities. These personalities are sometimes quite lacking the self-awareness, quite lacking empathy even sometimes. So this lack of empathy in most severe cases is actual empathy impairment, but lacking empathy because we're so focused on the outcome, we focus on what I want to achieve, that we do not focus on people, what people want, right? So I see people who, I have my expertise and I'm going to go there and I'm going to teach them information that they need to know. Right? The difference between educator who is aware, who is empathetic, who is with high emotional intelligence, and just knowledge, and the leader who just has knowledge, just competence, with no warmth, with lower emotional intelligence. The difference would be, I'm just giving you what I think you need to know. I don't care if you want to listen or not. I don't care the language that I deliver information. I don't care about or I'm not aware that I have to have it about the level of warmth that I need to show people, and empathy through my body language, through my non-verbals, and people don't listen. Who are you? Right? That people will be like, who are you? Because people still judge, by the way. I remember years ago, I'm an immigrant. I'm a woman. I have an accent. I'm Eastern European. So in Eastern Europe, but there is whole social label and bias, stereotype, I would say, about Eastern European women, right? Being certain way, acting certain way, having certain mentality. So when I would come and I would have clients who, the tough dudes, like you said, like the truckers, right? But they were bikers. I remember bikers with the history, with like a certain bikers group that are very tough, very, I'm not going to go into details. So I would have this client, or different environment. I would go to, again, like some C-level, high-level leadership groups, right? And they're like, I could see it in their body language, because I'm trained to assess the body language, because that's not for me to get an idea how to, manipulate them, but to actually just understand, how do I change and adjust my behavior and my content and my language, right? And even sometimes my personality, so they get what I was hired to teach them, or to consult them on, or if it's in therapy, on how do I navigate myself so they can benefit. Not just, I have this expertise, you have, in human behavior, you have no expertise in human behavior because you're a business owner, right? So I'm gonna come and I'm gonna save you from losing your valuable team members. No, you shut up and you listen and you adapt. You don't take things personally. You don't assume, right? If I go there and I think they're gonna judge me. Of course, I have this. I have this. I still have this, right? When I think people gonna, and then I remind myself, I'm not that important. It's not all about me. And I tell myself, Yulia, shut up. It's not about you. If you were hired to deliver certain knowledge, your mission is to deliver the knowledge, not to be liked, not to be respected, not to change people's lives. No, right? There was a specific, whether I'm a therapist in my clinic, whether I'm a, consultant for some project or for some, organizational leaders training, it doesn't matter. I'm here. I was hired to deliver to deliver the message, to help people, to share my knowledge. How I do it so people get it, it's on me. It's not on people. With children, it's a little bit different, right? Because still you have to find a way, right? But if we're talking about leadership, it's just how you present yourself and how you shut up and listen, learn. And I told the leaders, actually, I had last week, I had one of 6 trainings I did for one big organization, leadership teams. And by the end, they knew me already. They knew I'm, quite bold and, no fluff person, right? And it's just shut up and listen to your team. Listen to your team members. What about this and that? She's toxic, he's toxic, this, that. Yes, so that even more you want to learn about them. So you know then how to navigate your behavior around them so the whole team doesn't suffer because of one toxic person in the team. Right? So it's all about
Yeah, and it's such a good point of learning how to meet people where they're at so that we have that connection over correction, right? We're not here to correct people, but we're here to connect with them and learn where they're at. And because that trust, I mean, that trust is so important that we have to build as leaders, but you don't build trust over force, right? In order to find that flow and holding that space for people, is a big area of meeting them where they're at. And what I hear from you is that you've learned how to bring that self-awareness and shift your perspective so that you can hold the space and meet people where they're at, so that they can hear the very valuable messages that you bring for them.
Yes, and it starts with self-awareness. It starts with you. And it's not about just competence, it's about just hard skills, right? I don't know, whatever expertise you have. It's not just about that. So you have to understand where you are, because you're going to be then so insecure if you see, let's say, and the human brain scans in the environment. We're still very much, those have a bit of mammalian brain that's instinctive, right? That's despite of all the knowledge that we have and all the programs and, those narratives that we were programmed with. I use the word program. It's just easier, right? With those beliefs about yourself and the world around you, we still have those instincts. So the brain actually scans human behavior, facial expressions. It's thousands of years of evolution, right? We have to remember, right? And what happens is when I'm presenting and I see somebody is not me because I have knowledge in human behavior, so I can kind of adjust. But in general, when a person comes and I'm confident that I have expertise in this field, let's say, I don't know, finances, right? And I come and I teach you or product management or scaling, let's say, right? And I come and I share my expertise, but if I'm not self-aware, if I don't know what triggers me, if I don't know my emotional and physiological and behavioral reaction to those triggers, right there at that moment when my brain suddenly scans, somebody yawned, right? Or somebody on their phone, or somebody just rolled their eyes for whatever reason, right? I'm gonna perceive it as reaction to what I say. I'm gonna activate those insecurities in me, and instead of continuing focusing on the message that I was hired to deliver about scaling the team or scaling the business, right? I'm gonna be now having physiological reaction of a fight or flight mode. right? Why? Because I think I am not accepted, I'm not needed, I am bullshitting. They doubt, and I'll jump into mind reading, right? I was like, oh my God, they doubt my expertise, or maybe they this and that. Oh my God, I have lower education. Oh my God, I have this and that. Or maybe I'm. Do I have stain on my tie? Do I what like? And we're getting so into like this little like we're completely deviating from what the reason and the goal. Why are we even here, right? When we have this higher level of self-awareness and we have skills on what to do with it, what to do with our triggers, how to understand and rewire your habitual thinking, right? Are you jumping to conclusions enough? Too much? Are you predicting the future? Are you mind reading? Are you labeling yourself or others? Are you personalizing things, right? Are you disqualifying the positive? Are you catastrophizing too much? All of those are toxic thinking patterns that we've been wired in the base of the environment that we grow up. And if we're not from like born and raised by parents who were born and raised in the first world country, right? We're coming from cultures that were intergenerationally in the fight or flight mode because of the wars and adversities and intergenerational trauma that created almost like constant pass from generation to generation fight or flight mode and anticipation of an attack, right? It doesn't matter from the neighboring country or from the neighbor who wants to, steal your wallet. It doesn't matter. It's in your brain, right? So that creates even more need to work on yourself to recognize those patterns, behavioral, physiological, emotional, and cognitive, and work on your personal growth, how to change them. Start enjoying life, be content with who you are, and enjoy those moments of, those little moments like tea ceremonies. What do you enjoy in life? The little things that don't require you to go all the time.
Yeah. I as you're talking through these and going through the behaviors and what's habitual, I've been exploring, and I love to hear your take. And I brought it with you one time of the metaphor of a tree, right? When we think of a tree, and we have the roots that go underground, and the roots that go underground, when you compare the branches with the roots, and I started exploring this space of like, oh, like the roots are our values and our core and our inner world, and the roots are actually flexible and softer than the external branches and hard. And I had this aha moment. I was like, oh, it's like the roots are kind of like our soft skills and our essential skills, and our branches, which are hard and exposed and what everybody sees on the outside, are like our hard skills. And when we think of that, when I was going through that, and I was like, well, just the same of like when turbulence and weather comes through, doesn't matter how competent your hard skills are, if those environments disrupt you emotionally and those roots below are not stable enough, your hard skills fall apart and break. And I love to hear your take on that, of like, how relevant is that? Because I've been exploring that metaphor of like, oh, the roots are like your soft skills and your branches are your hard skill, and they're essential to the survival of a tree in any storm.
Yes, interesting how we use. I love to use tree. Sometimes I as you're talking, I remember I had this presentation at another big organization here, actually South Simcoe organization, and the presentation was on resilience, building resilience, and managing change, and leadership, how to lead through the change. So basically, change management skills, more like a workshop than presentation. And I use this one of the slides. I'm very visual. I'm graphic, so I use this image of a tree, but on the branches in the form of leaves. I remember, like, in those Canva, like, do I use this shade? What am I wasting my time on? Choosing shade for the leaf, maple leaves on that tree, it's not important. But every leaf on that branch, so we have our core, right? We have the branches, and on those branches, I would put our life responsibilities, right? So we'll have branch of like family with those little children, parents will have to take care of our partners. Another branch would be social relationship, friends. Partners probably would be more on the social because sometimes they don't, relationship change, right? Then we'll have our job, our work, career development, self-actualization, right? Branch with work relationship, anything related to work, then financial bill. So every branch represented something that actually we have to deal with, our responsibilities. And I emphasize the focus on this. So the core, what holds the branches? It's the core of the tree, and the core, the strengths of the core of that tree. This is us, right? So this is us. This is our resilience. This is our strengths, and this is how we navigate those branches when those winds and crazy weathers and adversities and traumas and unexpected events like COVID or wars or even like smaller, less traumatic events would come. The strengths of those branches would depend on how strong we are in that core. And I put two little people, little figures, on the ground. And one would hold this using the, the sprayer, the one that sprays like a nutrient. So the person with the little like picture of a person in this like suit, who would spray chemicals on the grass, right? And on the tree, at the bottom of the tree where the roots are. So on the ground, right? And I would, and another little person who would hold the actually water, that was fertilizer, and just pouring water on those trees. So two little people with completely different intentions, different goals, and different type of people. One is actually intoxicating our roots and the ground around us. So that ground would be no grass there, just dry, like the deserted kind of ground, intoxicated by those chemicals. And another person who's watering the roots, and that side would be the grass. I may send you the image sometime if you want, like the grass, bright and beautiful grass with flowers. So these two people would represent, so the intoxicating one would represent all the obstacles that we have in life. So that would be events that we don't have control over, like COVID or wars or, I don't know, political situation, economic situation. We don't have control over it, right? And also it will represent things that we can control, our own thoughts, right? Our own reactions, our own relationships. It's still up to us if we stay in that relationship that intoxicating for us, that intoxicating our roots and our cores, right? And I was focusing on dealing, what do we do with things we cannot control on a cognitive, behavioral, emotional, physiological level? What do we do with that, right? There's skill building around that. What do we do with things we can control? Right, so that would be on in that little person intoxicating little suit behind little balloon, like that he intoxicated with chemicals. On another person who would be actually very healthy, very nurturing, pouring water on your roots, that person would be, what can we do for ourselves to nurture those roots? Mm-hmm. So those roots can actually nurture the core, that all those responsibility, all those branches, all our life basically is holding on to.
Yeah.
So that's my analogy. That's my view of a tree, and adversities that come our way in the form of weather that can break branches, like happened recently here in Barrie. Right? This ice storm. We're still like driving like in a horror movie, with all the trees split half for branches. It's terrible. Anyways, a good metaphor though, right?
Yeah, and I always like to go back to, and a tree still grows, right? And to the heart of it, of yes, they're going to lose branches. Yes, they may be in environment, but to review what's in your control to change and to shift, and really remember that you have that ability and conscious, and we have so many options. To then just shift our mindset of what we can change and what we want to really own in our own environment.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's up to us. The problem is here, we need to recognize what's going on. We need to recognize what intoxicates us and to because we're so habitual, again, we're running. Sometimes people come to my to psychotherapy and I have anxiety. But what we discover is they're, for example, in a toxic relationship, and their body's just reacting, and it's been going on for years, and now they've developed chronic illness. But it's all would come from let's say their toxic partner, the exposure to constant stress, the domestic violence, invisible violence, I would say, right? The psychological abuse, right? Being able to recognize what intoxicates you, or what is your roadblock. Success. What is your what's where dysfunction is coming from? Is it coming from you? Is it coming from something you cannot control? Then you learn how to deal with it internally, right? But no, actually, like, that's why we need to pause. Right? Pause. Don't rush to get rid of the emotions that you feel. Just learn from them. Emotions are data. I cannot stress enough how, like, it's always so socially conditioned. You should not feel this way. Don't feel this way. Oh, I have anxiety. Can I fix my anxiety? Where is it coming from? Your body is telling you something. Your depressed mood is telling you something. Your anger is telling you something. What's going on? Let's sit down and talk about it, and let's see what your body is trying to tell you.
Yeah, and you bring a great point of, like, the language that we use as well, of not taking the identity of I am or I have anxiety, but I'm experiencing anxiety, and what is that experience telling me? And that was the shift that I did too, of like, I'm having heart flutters, and when I burnt out in that moment, and what is this telling me? If the doctors are saying that I'm fine, then what are these telling me, and how can I understand them? And taking that time to pause, to unpack them, understand them, and do your own education and resources to go through that. Well, and this is just coming up in our time as well, and I want to give that opportunity for you. Like, what's the key message that you want to leave, or the key insight that you want to really leave to our listeners about your work?
Message about my work. I want to leave a message about my work. Interesting. I could never think about myself with the work that I do, talking about it. My work is, my goal, my professional goal is to help people understand the power that they have in them, so you can unpack that power, remove the obstacles, that remove the programs and beliefs that they developed through their childhood about themselves and about the world around them. Unpack that power, unpack that resilience, and to help them make a first step into developing new habits, not through social media or, like, in general, social conditioning, to take off those masks of social conditioning that most of us are wearing because of the way that we need to adapt to the environment, to be accepted and to be loved, whether you're a child, whether you're a leader of big organization or country. To unpack that and to understand what steps need to be made to actually live a happy and content life, and to understand the difference between happiness and joy, because that's a big difference, right?
Contentment. Just I feel like contentment is such an underrated state of being, of just being comfortable with doing nothing, because when you're comfortable doing nothing, you've found space to just be comfortable with yourself in who you are.
And balance it out with actually being proactive as well, right? So it's all about balance at the end of the day. It's all balance. Yes.
Well, this has been a fabulous conversation, Yuliya, and I'm sure we'll have many more of unpacking that. And if you yourself are experiencing burnout or stress within your world, and know that there's a wealth of resources all around you, I'll put Yuliya's information here in the chat for you to reach out to her and read some of her resources. So, Yuliya, thank you. It's been a great conversation, and I look forward to the next one.
Looking forward to it. Thank you, Annette. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.